Welcome to this Plain Talk Planning presentation. It deals with the challenge of transitioning a successful business to the next generation. It is designed for all those who face the challenge, either as a business owner or as an advisor. Here's the situation. Mom and Dad have labored a lifetime building a profitable business that services a market niche and regularly delivers a paycheck to many hardworking employees. On paper, most would consider them rich, but they fully appreciate that the bulk of their wealth is tied up in a business that could be derailed by changing market conditions, a breakthrough technology, a new tenacious competitor, sloppy management, or a host of other factors. They have witnessed the demise of other businesses that were all considered rock solid at some point in their existence. The time has come for Mom and Dad to slow down, to turn over the reins, and to enjoy their retirement. One child is immersed in the business, fully prepared and anxious to run the show, and two other children are off pursuing other careers. The family wants a plan that will ensure the parents' financial security, treat all the children fairly, protect the business, promote family harmony, and minimize all tax bites. It's a tall order. Family business transition planning is big business. Family-dominated businesses comprise more than 80% of U.S. enterprises, employ more than 50% of our nation's workforce, and account for the bulk, some estimate as much as 64%, of America's gross domestic product. According to a recent survey of family businesses with annual gross sales of at least $5 million, 60% of the majority shareholders in family businesses are 55 or older, and 30% are at least age 65. And although more than 80% of the senior family owners claim that they want the business to stay in the family, less than 30% of them acknowledge having a transition plan. Strategic transition planning takes time, energy, and a willingness to grapple with tough family tax and financial issues. It cannot make a weak business strong or provide any guarantees of survival, but it can trigger a valuable analytical process that prompts a frank assessment of available options, facilitates better long-term decision-making, and saves taxes. The initial challenge in the planning process is the threshold keep versus sell question. Should the business be sold or kept in the family? That issue is the focus of a separate Plain Talk presentation. This presentation focuses on the challenge of developing a transition plan once the decision has been made to keep the business in the family. The focus here is not whether, but how. The plan design process for each family necessarily must be detailed-oriented, strategic, and forward-focused. Care must be exercised to avoid planning traps and the temptation to tack on complicated strategies that offer little or nothing for the particular family. Each situation is unique and should be treated as such. There is no slam-dunk solution. Above all, the specific objectives of the family must drive the planning process. The objectives, once they've been identified, then need to be prioritized to facilitate an effective analysis of the trade-offs and the compromises that inevitably surface in the planning process. The ultimate goal is to design a plan that effectively accomplishes the highest priority tax and non-tax objectives over a period of time and at a level of complexity that works for the family. This presentation first briefly reviews 5 essential elements that must be wisely incorporated into any plan, and various traps that must be avoided in connection with each of the elements. It then illustrates various strategies for transitioning value in the business to other family members, strategies that can be implemented at key points in time. The presentation wraps up with some observations about some of the more exotic estate planning strategies that are possible considerations, but often don't work so well when a private business is the main focus of the planning. This presentation has only one purpose: to help educate couples of all ages who want and need more information. At the end of some of the questions, you may want to pause the presentation, take a breather while you think about and discuss a specific point before moving forward. And you may want to go through the presentation in more than one sitting. The idea is to take it at your own pace. A simple case study is used to help illustrate the key plan elements and strategies that we're going to discuss. The Wilson family owns a business that is going to be transitioned to the next generation. The sellout option is off the table. Wilson Incorporated is a privately owned C corporation that has been in a specialized distribution business for 26 years. Earl Wilson, he's 65 years of age, is the founder and the president of the company, and historically has been the principal force behind the company. Earl and his wife Betty, she's 60 years old. They collectively own 90% of the outstanding common stock of the company. Betty serves on the board but spends no significant time in the business. The other 10% of the stock is owned by Jeff Wilson. Now, Jeff is Earl and Betty's oldest son. He's married and he's been actively involved in the business for years. Jeff is considered the second in command behind Earl. In addition to having a strong financial background, Jeff has a proven knack for sales and marketing and is really skilled in dealing with people. Jeff is anxious to take over the reins, and he wants to aggressively grow and expand the business. Earl and Betty have two other children, Kathy and Paul. Both are grown and married, but neither of them work in the business. Paul is a doctor, Kathy works in commercial real estate. Earl and Betty have 4 grandchildren, and they hope that they're going to have 1 or 2 more. Earl estimates that the business is worth approximately $10 million. That's the price that he believes the business could be sold for today. Earl and Betty's total estate, inclusive of their share of the business, is valued at about $18 million. Earl and Betty are anxious to move forward. They're looking forward to their retirement. They would like to develop a plan that will accomplish a variety of objectives. Number 1, Earl would like to phase out of the business over the next year and continue to receive payments from the business that will enable he and Betty to ride off into the sunset and enjoy their retirement for the rest of their lives. 2, Jeff will take over the control and the management of the business. Earl wants some ongoing involvement as a hedge against the boredom of retirement and to ensure that the financial integrity of the business is protected for the sake of his retirement and Betty's welfare. 3, Jeff will have the freedom to diversify and expand the business, and ideally the value of all future appreciation will be reflected in Jeff's estate and will not continue to build Earl and Betty's estates or the estates of other family members, specifically Kathy and Paul. 4, Earl and Betty want to make sure that at their passing, each child receives an equal share of their estate. They appreciate that the business represents the bulk of their estate right now. They want Jeff to control and run the business, but they want to make certain that Kathy and Paul are treated fairly. 5, Earl and Betty want to minimize taxes consistent with their other objectives and their overriding desire to be financially secure and independent. And finally, above all, Earl and Betty always want to make certain that they are financially secure. They never want to be placed in the position of having to depend on their children, and they always want to know that their estate is sufficient to finance their lifestyle for the duration. They are willing to pay some estate taxes for this peace of mind. As a hedge against future estate taxes, they would like to start transferring assets to other family members, so long as it does not compromise their overriding goal of economic independence. We start the presentation by focusing on 5 essential elements that must be built into any plan.